I'm going to say two things before we get into food waste. My voice might disappear, so 15 minutes shouldn't be a problem. And secondly, you've probably never heard of us. So I'm going to give you a really brief introduction and a short video to show you actually what we do. So, who are we? We're a unique multi-service event provider enhancing customer experience. So we have divisions of food and beverage, we have technologies, we have food service. Anything that will make food and drink at your event happen. So we all started, 40, 50 years ago in its current state with Stephen Freeman Sr., with the unit you see there, and then a couple of the pictures of his sons, twin sons on the right and left at the bottom. So it's a family business, and it has stayed a family business throughout. So a very short timeline of where we are. So 1975 was the first fish and chip van, but actually before that was his predecessors going back to the 1930s. So it's been family throughout the whole time, which is why sustainability is now such a heart of the business, because to them, that's how they created their business, that's how they want to move forward. So to give you a breadth of kind of the size of what we do now, we see 25 million consumers through the events a year, 4 million meals served a year, 40 million transactions, and 650 event days a year. So it's massive, and all happens behind the scenes. So a really short video to actually show you what we do all together. So that shows you the places that we operate at. That shows you some of the food units we offer, some of the other features we offer, the benches, the tills, everything. So it's such a broad range of what we do. And how does that all relate to food waste? Well, we'll get onto that now. So we've got all the venues we work at and all of the brands we work with. Lots of you are probably in the room today. So Freeman's Event Partners are moving towards net zero. So we're in a really unique position as a business because we work with all the different clients, all the different brands that have all got their own strategies, all their own agendas. So we are fitting in the middle of that. And one thing we really can control is food waste. So we've seen this stat already today. So 30% of greenhouse gases worldwide are from the food industry. So how are we trying to stop that? How are we trying to reduce that? How are we reducing our waste? So we as a business have some commitments, lots of commitments actually, and this is just some of them here. So our food and drink one. So we only want to purchase the best food we possibly can for the consumers. And that, whether that's Red Tractor, whether that's MSC 1 and 2, Rainforest Alliance, Fair Trade, we want to offer the best food we possibly can, which means when people are at the event, they will eat the food, it won't go to waste at the end. It's not just about buying things that are accredited, it's also about making sure we're serving the right food at the right time of year. So we're making sure that when we do custom menus for the Major League Baseball, for example, that the products we're serving are from that season and not being shipped in from abroad at different times of year. It's not just about the food, and it's not about making sure every portion's served. At the end of the day, when you go to an event, the chances are you've probably eaten your lovely, delicious food that you've eaten, but then you've got a load of packaging that sits with it. And this is just as important as the food waste. So what do most people do when they get to an event? They eat their food, it's contaminated, so it can't go in the recyclable bin anymore. So what do you do with it? So we have recently changed all of our packaging to compostable food packaging. So it can go in a bin with used food and nicely labelled by the bin contractors. Biffa, you guys definitely do it at a few events. So it's a nice synergy there. So we need to make sure, and now we've got great food, we're serving the right food at the right time of year, we're serving in the right packaging, is how does that then actually get disposed of and reduce as much as possible? So we work with a number of different partners throughout our events, and lots of them are determined by the venue as well, but these are our preferred options here. So in no particular order here, so Suez are who we use in our head office. They advise us of how to eliminate waste as much as possible, very similar to the topic we were just hearing from Biffa. It's how do you reduce that and how do you recycle that effectively. And then, of course, at an event, you're not going to have every single portion of your food sold. So like we've already heard today, we actually partner with FareShare as well, and they can redistribute the food that is either short life or nearing its sell-by date to people who need it the most. And they're a really brilliant charity, so if anyone in the room is looking for a partner for that, I really suggest you have a look at them. Of course, similar to lots of people in the room, the KFCs, the Burger Kings, lots of our food is fried because that's what people want at events. So we've partnered with Olico, who then take our used cooking oil away, and they then use it, put it into biodiesel and so on and so forth. So again, they're really brilliant people to be partnered with to try and reduce all of our waste as much as we possibly can. And then finally, we haven't got a logo for it, but it's my favourite one, is there is some food in our warehouse at the event that can't be redistributed, it can't be composted. So we actually are partnered with a local pig farm. So they will go in, we'll deliver it to them, and the pigs will eat all of our food that can no longer be used. We've talked about this an awful lot today. It's about technology and collaboration. So we know from the experience that we've already talked about here of kind of how many portions are going to be served at every single event. But actually, with the climate today, do we know that of the 80,000 tickets at Allianz Stadium sold, all of them are going to turn up? Probably because you paid a lot of money there. But lots of people still don't turn up, so you can prepare all the food you want. But over the years, we've gained our experience and data, which shows us what we actually need to cook. If we have 15 games which are sold out to 82,000 people, actually, all of those games will not be the same sales, or probably even similar in lots of situations. It all depends on the demographic of the people attending. So, for example, if you've ever gone and watched England-New Zealand at Allianz, you'll probably notice that it's a complete ghost town during the game, half-time and just before the game, because people want to go and watch the rugby. You paid an awful lot of money to go watch New Zealand play, which you can watch 1, 2, 3 times, maybe every 10 years. Whereas you go watch an England-Japan game, and that's a really family-orientated game, so the ticket price is slightly cheaper, so you then bring your kids to come and watch the first bit of rugby. So those games, even though they're both 82,000 sold out, actually they're completely different demographics, and there could be a few £100,000 swing in terms of revenue. So it's a really important thing, data, in what we're doing here. And then, as we've already talked about again today, we've partnered with Clamato, and they are a food labelling business in terms of your carbon footprint. So it's about education, it's about keeping things simple for people. So I find this really interesting, and actually this is contradictory to what we're talking about here. We implemented them for the first time at Cheltenham Races in March this year, and to be perfectly honest, I thought, absolutely no chance is anyone going to pay attention to a carbon label at Cheltenham races. It's cold, it's wet, it's really busy, people just want to get back to the racing. But actually, what we saw on our burger units is we saw a 30% increase on the sale of chicken burgers over beef burgers, which for the first time we did it at probably the least ideal venue we possibly could have, was amazing. So all that then did produce a load more food waste because we predicted more burger sales, but it's all part of that data and actually learning about how we now serve to people with the informed choices they can have. So the theme of data again, benchmarking your events, actually seeing a footprint. We've partnered with Net Zero now, and I'm going to move on to kind of a bit more about them in a minute, albeit probably quite quickly. They have benchmarked our business with us. We've also benchmarked the Formula One Grand Prix with us, which is our biggest event by a long, long way. So they will give us all of the data about our food waste, or all of our emissions about how we can improve it, and it's creating an action plan based on that. So data to this is vitally important to make sure we're doing the best we possibly can. And then on the topic of kind of making sure the food is of what people want and a good quality of what people want, is our food is farm to fork traceability. So we can do that through our BRCS accreditation, so we actually know exactly what cow you've eaten with your burger. So it's a really lovely story to make sure not only are you getting the best food you possibly can that you want to eat, we're serving the right number of portions to reduce that as much as possible. Digressing ever so slightly here, but it's all on the topic of the data, which then helps us reduce the food waste. So the Formula One this year, we did an awful lot of initiatives to reduce our carbon footprint in general, not just food waste. So to run you through a few bits here, so we reduced the number of diesel generators in the event by having hybrid generators in there, and we also switched out the diesel for HVO fuel. As I've already said, we've changed all our packaging to compostable to reduce that waste there. We've actually changed our smart water bottles that we've got here today to Life Water cans, with some savings there. And kind of the really interesting piece, which is then the last bit that I want to talk about in terms of communication and making sure people actually understand what they're eating and what they're doing with it post they've eaten it. So with Silverstone, we had this initiative called Zero Zone, and it was a small area of the Formula One Grand Prix which actually made everything as sustainable as we possibly could. So we had loads and loads and loads of signage there to educate people what they're eating, why they're eating it, where it's come from, where to dispose of it to reduce that waste. And it's making sure that messaging is really simple. And actually, recently we just won an award on it for Best Sustainable Initiative at the Major International Event Conference. So it was a really good initiative that went well. Very, very briefly, so this is all part of the data piece. So with Net Zero now, we forecasted what the Formula 1 was going to be for this year to make an improvement for this year and going forward. So we identified a 5% overall increase, and actually that 5% was actually a 38.4% decrease. That sounds fantastic. It wasn't quite so fantastic as it sounds. A lot of that was improved data, but even with the improved data taken out of it, we still managed 10% decrease in the forecast, basically. So it was really, really good. And that breaks down with food waste, food sales, drink sales, everything. So we actually see going forward what we need to improve on. And then finally, just a few kind of talking points to go forward. And I'd love to chat to you at lunchtime about some of these if they're relevant to you. So I've talked about food packaging and removing that from the environment as much as we can and making it compostable. But actually, really what we want to do is go one step further. We want to make it reusable. So everyone knows an eco-cup solution here, and it doesn't always work because of the deposit scheme, but there's lots of ways around that now. And if we could make drinks, coffee cups, food, all reusable, then that would make a really nice circular economy in every single event. So that's the next step we want to move towards. And then finally, I've kind of talked about these bits already, so we can carry on with the schedule. So benchmarking to actually understand where we are for data, securing sustainability accreditations that actually are meaningful to our environments. There's things like the ISO 14001, which are relevant to what we're doing. And as we talked about loads today, is collaboration. So this can't be done without collaboration. So how that works, whether you're a food provider or a restaurant chain that wants to be in that space and put your messaging across, then we'd love to have a chat and we can go from there. Perfect. Thank you very much.